to crucial technology. We want to cut off Russia's industry from the technologies desperately needed today to build a future. Our measures will weaken Russia's technological position in key areas, actually from which the elite makes most of their money. And this ranges from high-tech components to cutting-edge software. This will also seriously degrade the Russian economy in all areas in the future. Let me be very clear. It is President Putin who will have to explain this to his citizens. I know that the Russian people do not want this war. The European Union and NATO have worked in close complementarity, and this crisis will bring us even closer together. It is our shared duty to stand up to the gravest act of aggression on European soil since decades. Our unity is our best strength. The Kremlin understands this very well, and that's why they have tried their best to divide us, but they have achieved the exact opposite. We are more united and more determined than ever. We are one union, one alliance, united in purpose. Many thanks.
Last night, a cataclysm shook Europe, a brutal aggression triggered by Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin against human beings, a large-scale military attack on the Ukrainian people. And this unprovoked and unjustified attack is unlike anything on European soil since the end of the Second World War. It is an attack on the free and sovereign state of Ukraine and its territorial integrity, a blatant violation of international law, replacing rule of law by rule of brutality, an attack on peace and security in Europe. It's also an attack on the foundations of our European Union, a project of peace, prosperity for all Europeans. The EU and its member states, together with our allies, will hold Russia accountable. The European Council will convene today and will agree in principle on a package of massive and targeted sanctions. We'll also decide on political, financial and humanitarian aid for Ukraine and its people. Ukrainian cities have been hit, innocent people killed, women, men, children are fleeing for their lives. They need our staunch support more than ever. We will also discuss the geopolitical, economic and human implications of this aggression against Ukraine, and I do not believe that Russian people want war. You do not want to lose young men to a senseless war with a brother nation, serving as cannon fodder for an unjustified, unlawful and foolish war. I also appeal to Belarus and its people. You have the choice not to follow Russia's destructive action. You have the choice not to take part in this needless tragedy against your neighbours in Ukraine. And we, the EU, stand rock solid, united, firm and determined, together with NATO, together with our allies, partners and friends, to hold Russia accountable, to support Ukraine and to protect peace in Europe. We stand shoulder to shoulder with all countries across the world that want to uphold the rules-based international order for the sake of peace. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Frankfurt Allgemeine Zeitung.
Thanks a lot. Thomas Kutschka, Frankfurt Allgemeine Zeitung. I've got two questions. The first one to the Commission President. Which are the next practical steps the EU can take to help Ukraine cope with internally displaced people? And what are the next steps that could be taken to also help the neighboring countries that are probably seeing an influx of refugees in the next days and weeks? And a question to President Michel. When you called the special meeting yesterday, that was certainly before the attack. Did you have any indications yesterday afternoon when you took the decision to assemble leaders? Thank you.
Indeed, we have worked for weeks to be prepared for the worst to come. hoping for the best but being prepared for the worst. And this was concerning strengthening our resilience in the cyber field, making sure that we are independent, can be independent of any kind of pressure from Russian gas supplies. We have reached that stage. And indeed, to prepare for potential refugees. We have, with all the frontline member states, now explicit contingency plans to welcome and host immediately those refugees from Ukraine. And what internally displaced people are concerned, we have a lot of support through ECHO, humanitarian aid, shelter, and all the necessities people who are internally displaced immediately need. On top, there will be financial support increased for Ukraine on top of the 1.2 billion macro-financial assistance, which is available right now. So the preparedness is fully alerted, and we hope that there will be as little as possible refugees, but we are fully prepared for them, and they are welcome.
We had indeed indications that the situation was dramatically deteriorating on the ground, but we didn't know that such an aggression, a military invasion, a full-scale military invasion would take place during the last night.
Okay. NPR.
And Deutsche Welle, thank you very much. To all three of you, Ukraine is now under attack because it wanted to come closer to your institutions. This is why it was attacked. First, Maidan, and then over its wish to join NATO. And yet all of your appeals for dialogue have fallen on deaf ears. We saw the buildup happen. Nothing you did worked. What more could you have done, and how do you feel today when you are sitting here saying innocent lives are going to be lost? And these are people whose only crime, even in the words of the Kremlin, are that they wanted to be closer to Europe. Thanks.
Well, I think it's very important to remember that there is one that is the aggressor, one state that is responsible for what is happening now in Ukraine, and that is Russia. Russia is the country which is responsible for the loss of lives and the aggressive actions against Ukraine. And we have reached out to Russia for many, many years, actually, and especially during the last months, to engage in political dialogue to try to prevent this conflict. But at the same time, we are, as Ursula von der Leyen said, we have also been absolutely prepared for the worst, and that's what's happening now. So we have to remember that there is one aggressor, and that's Russia, and Russia is responsible for what we see evolving in Ukraine now.
There's a process to join the European Union, and since many years we are working with Ukraine, and we have gone far. Ukraine has reached quite a substantial progress if you compare it to years ago. To really have the closeness to the European Union at our eyes. We have a free trade agreement with Ukraine. This is a privileged access to the European single market, an increasing integration of the Ukrainian market into the European single market. We are strongly supporting financially in the case of reforms that are necessary without any doubt in Ukraine, but also strategic investments in Ukraine in a broad set of fields. We are very intensively working on the energy security of Ukraine. Over the last years, we have basically been able to guarantee the energy security of Ukraine through reverse flow, for example, of gas, but also investing massively in building up a renewable sector. Right now, Ukraine is decoupling its electricity grid from the Russian electricity grid, and we stand ready to support them in case that there are any kind of difficulties. This is not easy. This is not trivial. This is much earlier than we had planned, but this shows that there's an enormous amount of support for our friends in Ukraine.
And we'll go to Interfax Ukraine.
Thank you, Anna. Interfax Ukraine, Irina Sommer. Secretary General, don't you think that if in Bucharest Ukraine got invitation to join NATO, nothing will happen like what we have today? and a question for EU leadership. When we are talking about political support, can we talk about perspective of membership, at least political decision? Thank you.
But again, we have to remember who is responsible. What we made clear in Bucharest in 2008, and what NATO allies have made clear again and again, is that every nation has the right to choose its own path, and that we support Ukraine in their aspirations to further integrate with the Euro-Atlantic community, and also their aspirations for membership. And then it is for Ukraine to decide whether they would like to belong to NATO, and then it is for 30 allies to decide on the question of membership and when Ukraine is ready to join. That is our right to decide. Russia has not right to attack, use violence, use their armed forces to invade an independent sovereign nation, regardless of what they think about NATO membership, because that's not an excuse whatsoever to use military force against a neighbor. That's just not the world we like to live in, where big powers as Russia uses military force to try to coerce other countries, and if they don't act as they want, actually invade them. And that's what we are seeing now.
We recognize the EU aspiration of Ukraine. You know this is a decision that needs to be taken by the member states, but it is very clear that the last years we have worked a lot. It was described by the President of the Commission in order to strengthen all the ties with Ukraine. We have encouraged Ukraine to implement reforms. They made a lot of progress, more economic relationships, more economic ties in different fields. And it will be the occasion tonight at the level of the European Council to have a debate about the way we will support Ukraine in different fields, the political field included.
Thank you very much. This concludes this press conference.